Welcome back. You're listening to the Innovation in Government, sponsored by Carahsoft on the Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest is Phoebe Nordahl, the public sector lead for Atlassian. Now, Phoebe, before break, we're getting into this idea of the user center and how the user is really driving the need for new capabilities and how Agile DevOps is really listening to the user and then delivering those capabilities. This model we're talking about really in many ways is something called the enterprise service model. Talk about what that is and how does DevOps Agile fit into it?
Yeah, so the enterprise service model is essentially a business-oriented approach to an area of your organization that's going to provide a service to either a citizen or can be an internal employee as well. We see it mostly with large organizations who are attempting to better the experience of the internal employees and enable them in a way that they can go out and effectively deliver on what their either team mission is or agency mission is as a whole. We actually are going to be having an event on February 20th called our Atlassian Government Symposium, where we have two different sessions where two of our customers are going to come in and speak specifically to this. One is a state agency who completely reintroduced a new way to deliver services internally through the Atlassian toolset. They've seen a substantial improvement in access to what their employees need, as well as overall enthusiasm for being able to get their job done. At the end of the day, that's why we're here at Atlassian. We're here to enable teams to be able to get their job done and work effectively. I think that through ESM, it enables the agency to further continue down the path of modernization, rapidly getting those technologies out to their users, and in turn, having those users perform and produce product that the citizens are able to utilize as well.
So one of the things you mentioned about is sometimes the internal employees. So this is not necessarily an external facing. Lots of people hear enterprise service, they think, oh, well, you're providing a service to the public or you're providing a service to somebody else. You're talking about it's almost like an internal brain trust that says, okay, how do we serve the citizens better or serve our customers better?
Absolutely, absolutely. And how do we serve our employees better, right? Their jobs are challenging. The missions are critical that these agencies are performing today. How do you create longevity of those employees within the public sector? Again, just like they're competing with commercial standards through citizen engagement, they're also competing for those commercial standards through their individual organization as well.
Does the enterprise service model, what are maybe generally speaking the components? Is it a group of, like, it's the mission area, it's a technology area, and they have I know that's probably not what you call it, but like an investment review board, like what makes it up?
We see it in a couple different sectors. Usually we see it through IT, delivering, or in today's age, there's so many technologies needed to create a solution, especially in the DevOps world. So we see it through the IT sector where they basically package these solutions together and deliver a service either individually or to their customer base or citizen base.
And I think it's got to go through IT mainly because they're delivering IT services. Again, Correct. As we talked about earlier, it's not the enabler. IT is the business in many ways.
Correct.
Because everybody is a software company.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you pull back into DevOps, right? Because it's the IT teams speaking to the mission or business teams, ensuring that we're all checking the boxes and delivering appropriately.
And that's key here, because if you're going to modernize, as you mentioned, it's a great approach to ensuring that you're meeting the next set of capabilities, the next set of expectations of the mission area. And if you don't pull them in through the DevOps piece, or the Agile piece, you may just be talking in kind of a vacuum.
Absolutely, pulling them in continuously as well, right?
Continuous improvement.
Exactly.
Okay, we're hitting all the buzzwords today, by the way. One of the things about this enterprise service model as well, and then as you combine it, as you mentioned, with Agile and or DevOps, is this opens the door for maybe improved project management. One of the things that you see on the IT dashboard that I mentioned earlier is that a lot of projects are 70% on time or 80% on budget, and that's a piece of project management. Years ago, we used to talk about earned value management. I remember, if you remember, the EVM days, and that seems to have gone out the door because that's a waterfall idea. Now it's much different with project management as it relates to Agile and DevOps, and now the enterprise service model. Yeah,
I think that goes back to the beginning where we said DevOps and Agile methodology is increasingly bridging the gap between software IT and business teams or project management teams. as public sector is concerned. Again, at our symposium, you're actually going to hear how GSA is currently doing this, leveraging Atlassian collaborative technology across their organization to implement that methodology and deliver faster results. One of the things they do is they do a hackathon via our collaborative technology. This is not a technical hackathon. This is GSA looking at how they're working today, almost like a health check monitor. My team is not a technical team at Atlassian. Still, we do our Atlassian Health Monitor and implement that methodology to make us better and work more effectively with our software and IT teams as well.
You're going to change the name. Hackathon sounds like you're hacking something. But I know the 18F folks love to talk about hacking the bureaucracy.
Yep,
so maybe that's where they're getting down to. But still, hackathon just reminds, we all think about finding a bug or something. So I'll leave it to you to come up with a better name than the hackathon.
I don't know if I'm that creative.
But that's a great example because it's basically what GSA or any agency or any organization doing this is they're stepping back and saying, what are our processes today?
Yeah.
How are they working and where can we improve them? I imagine that's what that discussion happens at the newly named hackathon.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's critical to look at how things are being done today and ensure that you're making those appropriate changes. So at Atlassian, one of our core values is be the change you seek. I think we're seeing that more and more with public sector organizations. I think there was a long period of time where it felt like change was impossible. I don't think that assumption is as strong today as it was 5 years ago. I do think you have these change makers who are coming in, and again, not necessarily at the executive level. It could be a program manager. They could be someone in the service desk implementing these ideas, and they grow from an organizational standpoint because they work.
I'll agree with you that there was probably a feeling that maybe change wasn't impossible, but I'll put a finer point on it and say changes took too long.
Yeah,
to move you from point A to point B, that's a year-long procurement process, and then by the time we get through the protest, the whole rigmarole. Now, I think because of DevOps, you can bring in a vendor, you can bring in your own people. The Social Security Administration, as an example, they have their own internal software developers. They can change every month, every sprint. So I think that's a great point, though, that what you're making is agencies feel DevOps, Agile, and now IT project management are all they're feeling uplifted to do more quickly. Do you get that sense when you talk to clients that they're excited?
I do get that sense, and it's fun because the clients that I feel like I'm talking to and the customers that I'm talking to are those folks who want to go out there and kind of figure out how do we make this better. I will also say I don't want to discount it. Change is not easy in government. There are still a lot of cultural blockers, even in implementing Agile and DevOps methodology. I think that these folks have to be extremely creative in how they implement and change their organizational structures today.
And I think that the culture blockers is something we talk about. I always make a joke when I do a conference or if I have to hear the culture change, one more piece drives me nuts. But I think you're right in the sense that people have to get past we haven't always done it this way, or that's a risk, and I don't want to take a risk. The risk aversion piece, they have to get their minds around it a little bit. Is that something as you guys talk to clients that, hey, it's a smart risk?
It is a smart risk. I mean, look at the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense has been steeped in waterfall for years. And recently, led by the CSO of the U.S. Air Force, they are making a large move towards DevSecOps.
And in fact, I just had a great conversation with Major General Holt, who is the head of acquisition for the Air Force in many ways, maybe one down from Dr. Roper, but he was talking about the agile approach to acquisition and this idea of the pitch days and getting people in and getting technologies and newer technologies quicker into the Air Force. This is the same concept: is you follow the rules and ensure their security, use automation, and you can actually move pretty quickly. You just have to set up those processes beforehand. Is that the biggest key here? That understand what you're understand your outcome first, and make sure your processes are in place to get to that outcome versus
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Understanding that outcome, set the steps in place, making sure you have all the key folks in alignment there. I would say, though, from specifically from an acquisition standpoint, I think that our federal customers have moved beyond the answer of consolidation, right? And again, are looking for some of those newer emerging technologies that really answer the call of what they're looking to do today.
Phoebe, this has been a fascinating conversation. We're just about out of time, but let's tie all the pieces together. We've talked about Agile and DevOps, and we've talked about enterprise service model, and we've talked about IT project management. What are some of the things you're seeing that agencies are doing that they, to go down this IT modernization journey still, the path? What are some of the mistakes you would say we got to avoid, or potholes to avoid, or what are some of the best practices you're seeing emerge over the last couple of years that other agencies should maybe keep an eye out for?
I think that there's still some siloed activity. We know siloed is a very bad word. So I think you see improvement within some of the teams within an organization, and there's still a little bit of a challenge of getting that improvement agency-wide. I think having access to the technology has most certainly improved. I think agencies have put a lot of investment in innovation. I think that GSA's TTS office as well as USDS have helped with that as well in bridging the gap between public sector and commercial, and inviting a lot of the Silicon Valley companies in to help mitigate some of these issues. I think that what you'll see next is you'll see a continued movement of these methodologies into both not just the software and IT teams, but continued into the agency overall.
I think that's a great point about access to technology is easier. If you remember back in late 2009, early 2010, the cloud first, and then people are like, well, what is cloud, and how do we get to cloud, and how do we pay for cloud? A lot of those things are still challenges, but now getting to cloud is a lot easier.
Absolutely.
And calling up, whether it's like a Microsoft or Amazon Web Services or an IBM or whomever, it's just like, oh yeah, I can get you going.
Absolutely. I think too, that definition has evolved too, right, of cloud. But I think the biggest piece there is it's the utilization of multiple different technologies and ubiquitous platforms. And that's been able to kind of rapidly help government agencies move towards this more modernization effort.
And then having them connected more easily through stuff like APIs, which again, the technology side of it, oh, well, if you're over here and I'm over here, how do we interface? Oh, well, just it's no more middleware, the frustration of that. Atlassian
has an enormous marketplace. Approximately about 70% of our public sector orders have add-ons to them, right? So it is a customization of the tooling that enables them to deliver what they need to deliver on.
Phoebe, this is a fascinating conversation. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So let me thank my guest, Phoebe Nordahl, the public sector lead for Atlassian. Phoebe, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Jason Miller, and you've been listening to the discussion Innovation in Government, sponsored by Carahsoft on Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search innovation.